Julie, look, look, seeing the red and the red hair, the red curtains, everything's looking glowing. You're looking glowing, Julie. How
Oh,
lovely to
thank
meet
you.
you.
Yeah, likewise.
It's
Thank
really
you.
lovely to meet you because yeah, because we oh, let's turn that off. Chatting away on the group, and I really appreciate your contribution so far. So it's a real pleasure to meet you.
Oh, likewise, Anna. Thank you, and thank you for such a wonderful group as well. I know we've been in touch for a few years, actually. I think, haven't we, on Facebook?
We have, yeah. It obviously because it's that's our page, and there's quite a few. Well, there's quite a lot of Duran fans on there and everything, and I'm posting regularly. So it's just great and nice. I don't know if you noticed.
Who are
So
they?
I don't always get to chat so much to everyone. So it's really been lovely to get to know a bit more about you in the Independent Creators Group. And yeah, thanks for agreeing to do an interview. I'm really enjoying these. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at many of the interviews, but it's fascinating, isn't it? Getting to know people through the interviews because with Facebook these days, even with our best mates, we it can be a kind of personal versus not so personal platform. So it's really lovely to have the interviews to get to know more about everybody and you especially in this interview. And this is the first interview that I will have done without writing any notes at all because I started doing. I thought, no, I didn't ask you. You do a lot. You do a lot of different things. The only thing I saw on the front was of the Facebook was bass player. I know you're a Duran fan. Bass player and Duran fan. I know you were going to about to do a masters, so I don't know where to start. Where would you like to start, Julie? Because you're an inspiration from what I've read about you already.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Yeah, I do quite a lot of things, but I only do things that I'm passionate about. I've decided that at this point in my life, if I don't like doing it, if I'm not passionate, I'm not doing it, and that's that. So, I mean, my background. I've always done jobs like helping people. I'm a people person, so I've always been in like that service industry. Whether I started work when I was 11, we won't go right back to when I was 11, but I was waitressing
And do.
basically.
Thank you.
Um, um, and I had a very strict boss who taught me a very strict work ethic, along with my dad who had his own business. So I kind of had that drummed into me from an early age. If you want something, you go out and you get it. Nothing's going to land in your lap, kind of thing. So I've done beauty therapy. That's what I did in the 80s. I've done care work. I've been a PA for people with spinal injuries, which was that was a tough job. I lived in. After my
Yes.
marriage broke up, I wanted to go and do something that I thought was really worthwhile. And my kids were growing up, so I went and did that. Um, I was studying for a degree at the same time
What were you
in creative
studying?
writing.
Oh,
Yeah,
you did that. Oh my goodness.
humanities. That's what I was interested in. I've always had a passion for the ancient world, ancient Rome, ancient Greece.
Because I've got this behind. I always like to showcase an image, maybe not the most high res image, but an image of what everybody's art or what their or what their product is or what they're doing. So this is an image of your book. Tell us about the book. Did this come straight after your degree or what happened?
No, well, I studied through the Open University
Oh, did
part
you?
time. Yeah, and I was working as well at the same time. Actually, as a support worker for people with learning difficulties, I was doing that and really loved my job. But I wanted to do something else. I was never very good at school. I went to a grammar school and they didn't really know what to do with me, to be honest, because I was a little bit feisty. I thought I was Toya Wilcox. I was a bit of a rebel.
There's nothing wrong
So
with well, you're your own person, but if you're going to have a role model, Toya Wilcox was a fantastic role model, wasn't she?
yes, and I've been able to meet her as a result of my business as well, which is
Have
another
you?
story. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
which is
well, we get.
amazing. She's actually got a copy of this book.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so I was working as a social support worker, doing my degree, and then I've been with the company for a few years, and my mum fell ill, and they were very good to me at the company. They let me reduce my hours. My mum had a brain tumour, so I nursed her at home, and I was able to do that because of working as a PA, so I was able to do that high level care. She sadly passed away in the June 2015. And myself and my husband had got married the previous November, so we lived with her, you know, and we'd never really had a married life as a couple. So we were starting to begin our married life, obviously grieving for my mum, but knowing that she'd had the best care and she'd had her wishes, you know, and everything else. So we actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about Duran because they've featured in my life so heavily since I was 13 years old. We had a bit of a Duran themed honeymoon. We went to The Hague to see them in the June, which literally worked out. It was about a week after Mum's funeral. We went to Festival as well, and my husband's very understanding. But then by the December, my husband is a motorbike racer, not professionally, but here at Sutton-on-Sea and Mablethorpe, they do sand racing on the beach every winter. So he had always mechanics, but it'd been his dream to race. So he was racing, and sadly, very sadly, he had an accident, and he was in a coma on the 27th of December that year. So he was airlifted to Hull, and by the time I got to the beach, he was already in the air ambulance. And from that moment on, it was horrendous. We didn't know if he was going to live or die. So, yeah. So he was in a coma for 11 days over Christmas and New Year. Now,
2016 or
15, end of 15. Yeah. And I'm telling you this because it's very integral to the book and how the book came about. So yeah, 11 days he was in a coma, and on New Year's Day, they took him for an MRI scan, and it took 6 hours because they had to take them off the ward in an ambulance to the unit and back again. It's very stressful for the staff and everything. And they said, we basically had the talk, do we keep him alive or not? That was the talk. So it was the Friday, New Year's Day, and I said, please, can you give him the weekend? Which they did, and on the Monday he opened his eyes. So on that Wednesday, we sat up in bed, and then I was so exhausted I hadn't really slept for 11 days because this man who had only just been together a few years, you know, and he was my everything. I'd lost my mum. All of a sudden he was almost gone as well. My family said, Mum, go home, get some rest. But my mental health broke down through the stress, and I ended up being sectioned. Yeah, so I was sent to a psychiatric unit a long, long way away from my home. I was there for a couple of weeks. They turned me around and I went back home. A few weeks later, Nigel came home as well. So we were looking after each other, yeah, but we hadn't realised that he'd lost most of his eyesight at that point. So we were massively struggling. And then other outside influences, in a nutshell, I ended up being sectioned again, but then sent to a different place. Only supposed to be for a week. And I ended up in a very, very bad environment. And so I saw the best and the worst of the mental health and psychiatric services. And I ended up being, I'm going to say, I was abused by the staff in there, and I had to get an advocate to get me out. Oh dear. So, yeah. So anyway, as a result of that, as soon as I came home, I started writing to get the pain out of my head. And that's where the book came about. So the book is based on our story, but I turned it around because I didn't really want to make it the exact story, but I wanted to write about the mental health side of it and how the stress and the injury and the coma and everything had affected the family. So a lot of it is based on fact, but it is with artistic license. That's where the book came about.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for your honesty and sharing all your experience. And it is often the most testing and challenging and heartfelt experiences in our life that can give rise to when we're able to channel that creatively. It's not always the case. So I'm really inspired by the courage that you and the courage of being able to channel that into a creative outlet, because that's no mean feat to be able to do that. It can be a source of inspiration, but we don't necessarily, if we had the option, we wouldn't necessarily have chosen to have our most painful struggles being the source of inspiration. But what an incredible experience in all its manifestations, as far as how it affected everybody. That must have been for you. And so the book came out. Did you self-publish the book, or when did that come out?
Yeah, so I came home on the 4th of April 2016. I'd finished the manuscript by the end of June because I literally did not stop writing. But then what I did was I got a professional editor to edit it. And he said to me, right, firstly, are you crazy? And secondly, do you not like commas? Because I mean, grammar, I mean, you know, the nitty gritty is not my forte, really. I just wanted to write the story. So with a few little, I mean, he did the edits for me, made a couple of suggestions. And when I went into the story and how it came about, he said, oh, okay, now I understand. So he edited, and then I self-published on Amazon. So that was 2016. And then I got a publisher.
How did that happen?
But they've sadly let me go in March because I don't think it was selling as much as they thought it was going to do. But I don't
How did that come about?
To another level. They you know, it kind of fine-tuned it even more.
But did you take it around to publishers? How did that happen, the publishing deal?
Well, I just kept sending it to different people, and then somebody was interested. But I have to say, getting a traditional publishing deal is very, very difficult. So I did have to fund some of it myself. And but you know, it was out there and it was getting reviews. It's got really, really good reviews. And the thing was as well, I've had a lot of messages from people saying how much it's helped them and thanking me for my, for my honesty.
Oh, that must feel really touching and really therapeutic in some ways. But that when you're sharing your story and there is that real integrity and honesty that you poured into it, it must feel. There must feel a sense of, well, real connection, which is what a lot of what being creative is about, and our expressing ourselves is that connection, isn't it? It's the creative expression and connection that we're doing with our well, specifically with your book, and that everybody's doing. Any creative is doing. So what's the title of the book for those?
Well, I'll show you the first edition. This is on Kindle because sadly, this is the original one that's still on Kindle. So it's called The Hub, and it's by Joni Daniels. And this image was done for me by a lady in America called Sharon Dominic, photographer. And this is supposed to be like the main character, Kate, is like stood in between worlds. But it's almost like an eye as well. So it's like a vision.
And that's your name, that's your writing name, is it right?
Yeah, Joni Daniels. That was made up of my mum's name, who was Joan, Nigel, who is obviously Joni, and then my daughter is Billy Joe, and my other daughter is Danielle. So and my dad's initials were JD. So I got everybody in there.
Yeah. Wow. And then that's wonderful the new way one. To come up with a. Okay, right. So kind of similar. I'm just trying to see. Yeah. But it's pretty. So is that's still out on Amazon? Is that right?
It is, but I think sadly you can only get like used copies or for a ridiculous price or something. You know, it used to be $8.99, but I think there's one at £12 something. You'd be able to find a used copy. It was in libraries at one point as well. So I know it's in the local library. But I mean, so you did a
kind of partly funding. Was it more of a distribution deal that you did with that?
No. I mean, if you look into some of them call it vanity publishing because you get a book published, but basically you've paid X amount for it. But they did a lot of the publicity. But it's like anything, you kind of live and learn, don't you? But I'm still very happy that it's out there and in print and inspiring people. still, you
I
know.
meant for those who are thinking of publishing, what kind of deal that was, because often people may self-publish or may be looking for a publisher, but I hadn't heard of this middle of this. This is another alternative, which is which is an option, which can be an option.
It can be, yeah. I mean, if you really want to,
specific name for it?
no. What you would do is just go into Writers and Artists Yearbook, search for publishers that do your genre, or look on the internet. There's quite a few different options. I don't really want to give company names, but just have a look out there, you know. And some of them they will still offer a traditional publishing deal. I mean, I am desperate to get this into a film at some point. And I keep putting it out because I think it would be amazing. And I really think Daniel Craig would be amazing as Mars, as Ares, the God of War. I mean, now he's not doing James Bond. What else?
Loving your visualization. It's already manifesting, which brings me on to, I mean, I haven't seen any of your lives, but I get a real well-being. I think I've seen a couple of your lives. That you definitely have a real well-being, or part of them anyway, because you go live quite a lot on Facebook, don't you? Because do you coach? Are you a well-being coach as well?
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Because do you have like a spirituality side to that?
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm getting a strong sense of that from a few of the lives that I saw. So it was a bit of a surprise. Well, it wasn't that much of a surprise, because you were talking about, I think it was Mary Wollstonecraft. I can't remember. Is it Wool? You know, when I first said, oh yes, I'd love you to be part of the group, and you said, oh, I'm thinking of doing a master's, and I'm currently reading. Was it Wollstonecraft again? I can't remember.
I can't remember who it was now.
I should know, because I think I had to study her with maybe it was it Mary Shelley's mother or something. I don't know, but it was. I know that you have quite there was quite a lot of literature in the background, but anyway, so from the lives that I've seen you do, tell us about the well-being, the coaching and everything as well.
Okay, so obviously when I was very poorly, I was quite heavily medicated. I was on antipsychotics because my mental health, I actually went up, not down. So, and I also had a spiritual awakening, and I'm not going to talk a lot about spirituality and my those kind of beliefs on this live, because people have different views, and I'm just going to call it the universe. The universe everything is energy. So I'm a great believer in energy and connections, and, you know, like you were saying, you know, things happen, and I kind of had this kind of awakening. But my mental health was I was so poorly, I was so exhausted, and I was so heavily medicated. I put a lot of weight on, and I was really kind of trying to get myself back after all these horrendous things had happened. Now me and Nigel, we connected with this lady on Facebook, and her name, I'm just going to show you her CD. Her name's Tiger Lily, and she was promoting her album and talking about mental health, and she has borderline personality disorder, and she was doing a lot of interviews. Anyway, randomly we came across her on Facebook, so we connected, and she said, oh Julie, I'm doing my video single launch at Hard Rock Cafe in London, would you like to come? And I went, yes please, because I always say yes to an opportunity, because you think, what if, you know, you don't know, do you? You don't know what's going to happen. So went down to meet her and took her my book, so we swapped, which was great. And then she started kind of looking a little bit healthier, and a little bit kind of like she got more energy. And she said to me, I'm with and I don't, can I say the company, because it's part of a franchise.
I don't think it can.
I'm part of a health and wellness franchise called Juice Plus. We do nutrition, that's what we do. So she said, I'm with Juice Plus. I said, I don't want to drink fruit juice. What are you talking about? Don't be so ridiculous. And she's like, no, it's this. But I wasn't really ready. I was kind of like this. I wasn't ready to kind of feel better, if that makes sense. So it took me about 6 months. She kept every now and again, she'd say, oh, Julie, come and look at this. No, don't want to. At that point, I don't want to feel better. Go away, leave me alone. I was still kind of in victim mode. I think it was a bit soon. I was still, you know, and I think you have to go through that process when you've been through something so horrendous. And both Nigel and I were kind of recovering at the same time. You know, we were helping each other through. Anyway, by the March 2018, None of my clothes fitted. I had zero energy. I was trying to work part-time. I was trying to get my holistic therapy business off the ground. I was doing facials and massage, trying to go back to my beauty roots, but with more of a spiritual thing, you know, realizing that mentally and physically it's so linked. Anyway, eventually I said yes. I started to lose the weight that I put on. I was doing Zumba, but I was the fattest girl at class at the back and crying when I got home because I felt so rubbish. Because I wasn't me anymore, but I was just trying to get myself back. Anyway, after a couple of weeks, I started feeling better. And within a couple of months, somehow, don't quite know how, I've managed to get a team. I've managed to get customers and, you know, and started helping other people. By the September, I'd lost all my weight. My energy levels were incredible. And I've gone from strength to strength ever since.
And this is a wellness coach, right?
Yeah. Meanwhile, I've met a lady because I'd started doing festivals, like having a little stall and doing massage and doing some readings. We won't go into that, but doing some readings.
That's what I think I remember. But you can go into whatever you like. Obviously, if you don't want to, that's fair enough. But that's what I remember on the live, because I think you were talking about the readings in one of your lives. That's why.
Yeah. Well, I kind of I don't really advertise that I do a lot of readings, but I have a lot of private clients, you know, and it's just kind of a little bit of guidance. I'm not a fortune teller or anything like that, but I just help people channel their own intuition, I suppose, is what you would say. And I use crystals and oils and all sorts of things. Anyway, this lady, she's got a stall opposite me, and I'm very big in with the Volkswagen crowd. I love them. There's such a nice field, nice people. So she came to chat with me, took my book, became part of my team, started running bigger festivals, and then got all these different musicians. And I went to this festival of hers to work. That's how I met Toyah, because she was singing at a festival. Yeah. So
wow! How did you manage to get back? Because when I'm actually doing a performance, I guess I'm already backstage. But I'm always amazed that people can get anywhere near backstage when they're not actually doing a performance. The few times I've tried to, I've never managed. I've very rarely managed to. I think it's quite an accomplishment in itself. How did you manage? Did she happen to be passing as you were coming in, or did you have a pass? What happened?
No, because my friend Cheryl organised the festival. She said, "Come and meet
Toyah."
I'm like, okay, thank you. And the Neville Staple band, who were amazing, I have to say, because he was from the Specials, wasn't he, Neville Staple?
Anyway. Yes, of course. And they're still going, aren't they, the Specials?
Yeah, amazing. So anyway, she said that she still, you have to wait till she's come off stage. She doesn't really speak to anybody before she goes on, because she does some meditation and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Anyway, she came off and we got chatting, as you do. And I said, oh, Toyah, I've got a copy of my book for you. And she went, oh, thank you. Then she recommended a book to me. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, my 14-year-old self was beside herself. Because, you know, this lady that I've been like, look at my hero. So yeah, you never know where it's going to lead you. And music features very heavily in my book, because I've always been really connected to music. So, you know, this should really have a playlist with it. I mean, yeah, it's fabulous.
So yeah, I mean, it sounds like really natural connections as well, because it was somebody that you knew at the festival, and it is really lovely, isn't it? How these things can happen. It's not necessarily when we're forging and forcing ourselves forging down one avenue and willfully trying to make something. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being proactive, but it is a bit of a balance between that, and you can usually tell when you're kind of overdoing it, and the energy doesn't seem to flow the same way as if you kind of almost allow it in and make space for alignment. So now I'm pretty sure that was I saw one of your lives, because you do a lot of lives on your Facebook. One of them, I think you were cooking something, which was lovely, and then another one, I think you were just about to go skydiving. I mean, I just think you're extraordinary from the small amount of lives that I've seen and little clips of bits and pieces that I've seen. I think, wow, who's this Wonder Woman?
I'm not Wonder Woman. I just because I think I was so close to not being here anymore through no fault of my own, that now I just embrace life, and I start every day with my gratitudes, you know, every single day. And it might be that we've got hot water. I might have had a lovely shower. It might be something massive. It might be something small. It doesn't matter. I just really try and be grateful for absolutely everything. And you know, and I do try and manifest things as well. But you're right. You have to go with the energy and how it feels. And if it doesn't sit right, don't do it. That's my thing. If it feels right, do it.
Yeah, relax, kind of, yeah, try and chill out. I mean, I don't always do that, but I'm still, that's a work in progress, shall we say. But it's not about me. But yeah, but you certainly, yeah, when you're trying to progress doing creative things, you really start to get to know yourself in the process. So what's coming up for you from next? I mean, I know you're coming to see Jonathan Ross, but in terms of your creative things, are you going to be writing another book? Are you because I also saw on the top of your Facebook page bass line. Do you play the bass, Julie?
Yeah, I do.
Well,
It's a work in progress. Now, you see, when I was having one of my breakdowns, I ordered a new bass guitar, and when I was sent to hospital, they sent it back. So I was mortified when I got home, because that was one of my things when I was poorly, is I was buying lots and lots of things.
Okay.
There are some funny stories as well with that, which I won't go into. Anyway, they've sent my bass back. I'm like, I actually did want that bass, so let's get it back again. Yeah. So I started. I actually won. I won a lesson on Facebook.
Oh, did you?
Yes. So I'd entered this competition and got this message to say, oh, you've won a lesson. I'm like, oh, amazing. So I went to have this half hour because I thought I might be rubbish. Do you know what I mean? But it really connects with me. I really feel it here.
Oh, it's exciting.
So I won this lesson, and this was a couple of years ago, 3 years ago maybe. And I've been going ever since. Obviously, I didn't go through lockdown, but I've just started again. A few weeks ago, and he said to me, Julie, you need to be in a band. I'm like, no, I'm quite happy playing on my own, thank you. I'm just trying to concentrate on 2 or 3 songs and do them really well. But I absolutely adore it. I bought Nigel a drum kit. He's not having any of it. I'm like, we've got our own rhythm section, we can be drum and bass. He's like, no, I'm not. But we have the drum kit downstairs, so I've got rugby sticks as well now.
Oh yeah, I think I saw you catch those in Birmingham. I did.
Scarborough.
Was it Scarborough? Okay, well maybe I saw you down the front in Birmingham. Maybe you're ready to catch them. But well, that was well done catching them in Scarborough. That was a massive audience.
I know. Roger was like. He was like that. I'm like, I got my phone. I'm like,
That's right. Did he go over and give them to you?
No, he threw them. He was waiting for me to tuck my phone in my bra so I could catch. And I'm going, right, wait. So yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for just all the wonderful different things you do, and that level of kind of energy and channeling, and your book. I mean, it's all really inspiring. I'm extremely inspired by all the different things, and long may it continue. So what would you say as far as I mean, it sounds like you're just all over your stuff. And what would you say that you feel that you still want to know about? Because you're definitely a proactive person who is an inquirer, aren't you? You will find out and you will go and do what kind of things as far as your creative path do you feel that you'd still like to find out about? For publishing, maybe are you going to focus on you're doing another writing project, and anything that you learned from last time that you think, oh, actually this time I'd like to find out and do it this way?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just really go with the flow. I kind of go, I mean, like you said, I was going to do my MA in classical thing, but my trouble is I tend to take on too much and I overwhelm myself. So I'm like, I've really massively thought, right, I don't need that. Concentrate on what I'm doing, and like I say, what feels right. So I do have another manuscript nearly finished, but I need to really rewrite it and go through it. It's the follow-up, because this is a trilogy. So my characters at the moment are in Lancaster Castle in the dungeon, and I've left them there for 1.5 years, and they're going, excuse me.
Oh well, I suppose it's on Audible, is it?
No.
Right, is it on? Did you say it's on Kindle?
Well, the original is, the hub is, but the second one isn't. Yeah, so that.
All right, was that the second book? I thought it was just a different version of it. And so you've done two. So,
the manuscript. I'm working on the sequel for the hub. I'm working on the sequel.
Yeah. So where can people get the hub on Amazon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can get it on Kindle, and there might be a few paperback copies left. I have got a few authors copies left, but
All right.
that's it.
So you
Unless
can
somebody
get
else
the hub.
picks it up.
All right, you can get it on. You can get it on Kindle.
Yes.
Fabulous. All right.
Yeah.
Well.
So
And what's
this
this?
is the next one is going to be called Aphrodite Rising, and this is these are my notes that are going in for the So
Fantastic. Well, thanks for being such an inspiration, because you really do channel. And I mean, I love that. Well, I identify with, but probably not as much as you, because you're doing all the things. Oh, and actually being about stripping things back sometimes. Because if you have got you are the kind of person that's got an abundance of energy, and it can go everywhere. It can sometimes be a bit of tweaking, but really how to retain it still and being that proactive. But yeah, stripping down as well. I don't know if that made any sense, but it did to me.
but yeah, I mean, with my health and wellness, I mean, feeling well mentally and physically, it's so linked. And sometimes I'll get a bad day. Like last week, I could feel it starting on the Monday night, and the Tuesday, I'm just like, no, I need to just take a step back and stop. And that's okay as well, because you can't always be 100% all the time, and it's okay to have a bad day. It is,
that's part of that kind of growth, isn't it? Is to not deny those feelings as well. Really, the problems can start when we deny ourselves that they're actually in existence, and keep trying to forge through sometimes. But I'm just really and so inspired by everything that you shared, and thanks. So it was quite short notice. A couple of these interviews have been quite short notice. So I really appreciate all that you've shared today, Julie. And everybody go check out the hub on Amazon and on Kindle. I'm going to have a go at Kindle, I think, with that, and also your Facebook lives, because I know that you're really generous in those, and they're consistent, and that's around wellness coaching. Is that right?
It is. Can I just show you? I've got a couple of logos that I've because I've got my TLC support. That's Team Running Club Success, which is for health and wellness. I've got team and clients all over the world, and this is my my Facebook group with 4,000 witches in it, called UK Witches Merry Meet. And we're not, we're all about healing and energies and the good things mostly.
Fabulous. Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Julie. And I'll see you in the group, and I'll be checking out the Merry Witches. That's for sure. That sounds wonderful. All right. All the best, then.
Thanks very much, Hannah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.